Hello. I wanted to try making a video about this new fantasy challenge game because I'm quite into it. It's a new game, Fantasy Premier League. It's a separate standalone game. It's like a free hit each week, and I'm quite into it. On FPL, the Twitter community, so far it seems to have had a fairly underwhelming reception, but I'm into it. So I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. I really like the idea of winning it. Like, I think I've got that idea into my head now, because like the main game, I don't think I'm ever going to win. But I might win one of these. Like, and I love that idea of just winning one. It'd be really nice to just get that. And I also really like the format, the way it's played. There's a lot of things about it I like that it's making me think differently. The one thing I like about it is that it's all about winning. So it's first or nothing. Like, there's no second prizes, no third prizes. So this way of playing, of like playing template, keeping up with the pack, with the peloton, none of that matters. Spreading your bets, limiting your ceiling, having a forward against a defender, you just can't do any of that. It's sink or swim, death or glory, win or nothing. And so it forces you to think kind of differently. You have to kind of go a little bit more rogue. I'm not sure how rogue you have to go yet, because originally I was thinking, like, so game week 30, I was looking back through the team of the week through previous seasons, previous game weeks, and it's so rogue. Like, I was thinking, well, I'm going to have to compete with this. Because in FPL, there's so many players, you're always going to have 1% of the players who just go rogue and pick a load of random picks, and then of that 1%, 99% of that 1% will just fail. They'll lose, but there'll be 1% of that 1% that go rogue and get lucky. And so you'll compete to win it. You're always competing against the 1% of the 1% who go really rogue and get lucky. So I was kind of thinking, well, I'm going to have to go really nuts. And I was looking at these teams, and they've got so many kind of just random, crazy players who you wouldn't expect. But then if you look at the winner of this game week 30, it wasn't actually that rogue at all. It's actually quite... I almost want to say it's a thing of beauty, but that's too much. But it's like he's gone this 5-block defence, which is a really good idea, and that may be the way to go. Just a block defence of all Aston Villa. I mean, I was originally thinking, if you go back through all these other game week team of the weeks, it's quite rare that you get all of them of the same defence. You got 3 different teams here. You got 5 different teams here in the defence, and it's actually a lot of these players didn't even keep clean sheets. A lot of these points come from goals. He kept a clean sheet, that one. This one didn't, no clean sheet, he just scored a goal. A lot of these points come from goals. And so I was kind of thinking, oh, well, maybe that's it, and maybe you've got to spread it around a bit and look for goals and stuff. I don't know. But he's done it like this. So maybe I'm overthinking it a bit, because... So game week 30... the top score, this was the dream team of the week, 140 points, like this. But maybe that's going to be rare that anybody's going to actually hit that on the head. So at the moment, we're only competing against teams like this at the moment. Maybe, I don't know, but that might be the way to go. Block defenses, and then his front attackers are actually all relatively template. Salah, Palmer, Son, Gordon, Isaac, and Muniz are all kind of choices at the forefront of people's thoughts. So maybe not too template, not too rogue, but quite rogue. And he's also made use of a lot of these kind of tricks, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, of like, because you've got this rolling lockout mechanism. It's got a different deadline. And so you can actually kind of use that. So he's put his captain on He-Chan, so it's forced him to have the vice captain points and things like this. I'll talk about that in a minute. So that's really cool. And another thing I like about it is... that what was I going to say? The challenges each game week is really interesting. So this game week, forwards score double points, so it forces you to think a little bit differently about how you're going to do that, and I'll talk more about that in a minute as well. But there's just so many, like on FPL Twitter, sometimes people talk about like, how would you like to improve Twitter FPL the game, and everybody's full of ideas, and it's like, well, this is like a perfect chance to experiment with all these different ideas of ways that we can improve the game. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do with the points, where you can get like goals scored double, assists get double points, clean sheets double. You can do things with the bonus point system, maybe where that gets points. I don't know. You could do all kinds of stuff. You can do stuff with the budget where you can kind of limit the budget to 75 mil, 50 mil or something. You could force people to think a bit differently. Could be interesting. And then formation you can play around with. You could have just no formation at all. Just pick whoever you want, 11 forwards, 11 midfielders, whatever you want. That could be fun. And I also like the idea of this is maybe just me thinking outside the box. It's probably not going to happen, but like hidden Easter eggs and things like this, where you can, I don't know, if one of your players gets subbed off, let's say between the 70 and the 75th minute, then you get like 10 bonus points, and so you have to kind of pick players who might get subbed off between that period to get the extra bonus. Or you can sometimes, like when you used to play computer games, there were like these cheat codes where if you transfer one specific player for another, it has to be the exact right switch, but if you do it, you'll unlock some kind of golden player that scores quadruple points and all this kind of business. Like, I don't know, I haven't thought it through, but like, I love the idea that there's just so much flexibility. You could do all kinds of things with this, and just play around with it. But we shall see what happens with it. It's still in beta mode at the moment, so there are still a few bugs left in it. One is that if you transfer your captain out, the captain automatically goes to the most valuable, the most expensive player in your team. So that's something to watch out for. I don't know whether they'll fix that. And then earlier I was playing around with my team and my budget was exceeded and I was transferring and substituting players, and I somehow ended up with Palmer there in defence and Darwin, I think, was here in midfield. So yeah, it's still a few bugs, but it's beta. It doesn't bother me. Hopefully they'll look at things like that. Yeah, I love it. And then there's the rolling lockout mechanism. So this is something that I really like, and this is something that I think most people aren't into. That's the feeling I get on FPL Twitter, but I really like it. What was I going to say about that? Yeah, so some people think the idea of having a deadline early is there's more of a skill issue in predicting who's going to line up, but I'm not sure I agree with that, because firstly, if you have a player who you need skill in order to know if they're going to start or not, I'm not going to play that player anyway. I don't want a player who's you're unsure enough, they're too rotation proof enough, rotation risk enough that they might not play each game week, that you need to have a certain skill to know if they are going to play one week and not the other. I just wouldn't buy that player anyway. So like, there's some very skilled Man City predictors in the community who are very good, but then I'm just going to pick a player who's nailed anyway. And then the only other time when that prediction comes in is like if you've got a doubt player, somebody who's an injury doubt, but then the skill there is involved in like trying to discern what the manager said in the press conference and how severe the injury is, and training photos and leaks and rumours, and I don't really like that side of things, or think I don't feel like that's massive skill. Maybe, whatever, it's just my opinion, but I love having that the ability to just pick your player on the lineup. Just wait for the lineup to come out and pick your player, especially for a game like this where you've got the whole 15 choices each game week. You can do that for every single player, and so it's like pick a mix. You can just wait for the lineup and then pick the player. I really like that. And then also with the rolling lockout, there's some, it's kind of like, I guess people are calling it hacks and exploits that you can, which I like. And I guess I get, sometimes I think there's an intuition that it's not supposed to be like this, but I'm not sure. Maybe that's just because we're not used to it. I kind of feel like it's I like the strategy of it. I like the fact that if you figure it out, there are actually ways to boost your odds and thing and get some advantages if you work out the strategy of it. And so I want to talk about that now. I think I'll get into it. So, I mean, in general, some people have figured it out already that you just put your early players on the bench, and then if they do well, then you can just transfer some of these players who are playing in the later games to players who aren't playing, and they will automatically trigger the auto subs. And you can do it with vice captain as well. Make sure the vice captain plays early, and put the captain on somebody who's not going to play, and it will automatically go to the captain. Things like that. But there's a little bit more that you can do to really boost the efficiency. And I read this article here on Reddit by a user called Launch a Poo, which is a great username, and it's a really good little article he's written here, explaining how to maximize this system, and it involves kind of making sure your bench is set up in an order where you've got like, it's in reverse chronological order. You want the earliest there, second earliest there, third earliest there, and it depends on formations. I'm going to move the camera in a minute and talk about it, but yeah, so that's really interesting. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to move the camera and hopefully this will work. 1 second. Hello. So this is me being a nerd. I was just trying to figure out. I was trying to get my head around it because I like this stuff. I know I'm a geek, but I was trying to kind of get my head around, trying to understand how to figure out how to exploit the rolling lockout mechanism to get the best advantage, and it's based on that Launcher Poos guy, his article. So anyway, basically, I've actually got this set up wrong, haven't I? So something more like that is how you'll start off with. So basically, first thing to think about to simplify is the goalkeepers are just separate. They're totally standalone on their own. Forget about them. Basically, you've got two goalkeepers, and it's like you've got two rolls of the dice, and you just put whoever plays early, your earliest goalkeeper, put him on the bench, and then the second earliest, the latest goalkeeper, start him in the team. And if this first goalkeeper does well, then transfer that goalie to a player who's not playing, an injured player, somebody's not playing, and he'll auto sub in. That's it. And if he does badly, if this one does badly, then play this one. Play that one. So you basically got two rolls of the dice with the goalie. That's it. Standalone. Forget about it. Nice and easy. The rest of the team, generally, you're always going to have like a core 7 players who just aren't affected because you've only got 3 bench. So you've got 3 bench, and then you're going to need 3 players who are potentially going to be turning to non-playing players so that you can auto sub them in. So there's always going to be this set of 7 that are like your core players. So they're also kind of, you can eliminate them. It depends on your formation because you can just have like 1 defender and like that can be your 3. So it depends on your formation a bit, but you're usually going to have, and like in this game when forward scored double, I'm probably going to do something like that as my 7 core. But you're normally going to have like a core 7, and this is going to be your players who are most likely to score the most amount of points. So your Salahs and Haalands and Sons or whatever, keep them in. And that it doesn't matter when they're going to play. It doesn't matter the order, really. I don't think so. You can just forget about them. That's just your core team. And then you got your free defense and your free bench, and then these 3 players in your team who you're going to sub off if you need to. I'm not 100% on this. I've been, so I might be a bit rusty. But so the way you do it is basically you want the reverse chronological order. So the earliest fixture on the end there, second earliest, third earliest, and then the fourth earliest, or basically the latest fixtures. These players will be the latest fixtures, so that you can kind of do it in that order. And you want the defender on third on your bench. The way he said it is this is the best way to do it. You can do it in other ways, but this is the best way to do it, where you have 4-4-2, 2 defenders like that mid. So 1 defender here, so it maximises your forwards. You can get a couple of rolls of the dice with the forwards, midfielders. So basically the defender goes first in the game 1. If he does well, then you're going to have to switch those 2 to non-playing players in order to force this defender on. He'll force him on, and then you're going to see how this one does as well. And so it's going to be the defender's going to come on, and one of these 2 are going to come on. If he does well, then those 2 will come on. If he does well, then those 2 will come on. If he does well, you just get rid of that guy. Turn him to a player who's not going to play, and now these guys come on. And if he does badly, then you let that one play, and those 2 will automatically come on as well, because the formation will force the defender on and the first priority bench on. If he does well, you get rid of this player, and now he's the first priority bench. That kind of thing. So that's what you do there. Whereas if he does badly, then it doesn't matter. You just leave, he's your second roll of the dice here. and you come to the next one, and then if he does well, then what you can do, although I'm having a second thought about this, but what you can do is you can get rid of him again, and it will force this guy, and then you get rid of one of these two, whoever you want, and that will force him on if he does well. Whereas if he does badly, this is your mid, if he does badly in the second game, then you get another roll of the dice as this one, see if he does well. If he does well, then you do the same thing, that will force him on. And if he does badly, then you leave these players in your fourth game, and they play. It's that kind of thing. So you get all these extra rolls of the dice. That is basically it. I feel like it's easier actually to see. It's easier to see that he was saying that that's better with the forwards and the mids. You get a better roll of the dice, and I think that's probably right. But I found it easier to think about it when you do it in a 3-5-2 formation and have two defenders. Now, why did I think that? So you've got defender 1 plays. If he does well, you can just do that and do that and get rid of him, and that will force him on. That forces him on. You get rid of that one. But if he doesn't do well, then you play him. Yeah, so basically, if you think of, you can almost think in this formation, you can almost think of this defender 3 slot as one separate slot, and you've got 3 rolls of the dice at it. You've basically got 3 rolls of the dice at this one slot. He goes first. If he does well, bam, those 2 go off. He comes on. If he does badly, you get a second roll of the dice with this one. If he does well, he goes off and he comes on. And if they both do badly, then you just play him. So you've got 3 rolls of the dice at this one defender slot, basically. That's what happens in that scenario, which I find like almost easier to see. And then this forward slot is just a standalone slot as well. So you've got basically, it's like having 2 rolls of the dice at this slot or something. You almost don't even have to think about this guy. So it's almost just like that in this scenario. And if he does well, get rid of him, he comes on. If he does badly, then you can play him. So you've got 2 rolls of the dice with this slot. Yeah, so you almost don't have to think about that mid 4 at all. You can almost think of it more like that. It's just a normal mid 4, something like that. But so yeah, I think all of this will become more intuitive as we begin to play more as well. What was another thing I was thinking of? So yeah, so another thing I was thinking of as well is that this game week 31, forward score double. And so this core set, these are supposed to be your best, the players most likely to score the most amount of points. So I'm thinking, and I could be wrong about this, but I'm thinking I'm probably going to want to do something like that. Make sure these are my core, because these are the players most likely to score the most amount of points. So I'm going to have a formation like that, which means I'm probably going to have a 4-3-3. A 4-3-3, something like that. Let's do it like that, something like that. I'm going to have a 4-3-3. Let me just think. 4-3-3. Then I've got my defender there. That's defender 5. Then I need 2 mids here. Sorry, I should have got this. Thought about it a bit more. Something like this, right? And you could do that, but I don't think you need to do this. So 1, 2, 3. There's the 4. Something like that. Let me just check that's right. That's not right, is it? It's a mid 5, isn't it? Well, let's just pretend he's a mid 5. And then you do defensive again. If he does well, you're going to have to get rid of these 2, and then one of these 2 will come on. Either him, those 2 will go on. Either him, those 2 will go on. If they both do badly, you get this kind of choice of like, you're going to look at those 2, and if they're good enough, you might stick with those 2. But if they're not good enough together, you might just play these 2 together. Yes, it's pretty much the same thing. But the thing I wanted to mention about this though is that in game week 31, there's only 3 days of games. So, and there needs to be a gap between these games. That game needs to finish before this game starts so that you can take advantage of this. Whereas in the 3 days of games, the kickoff's at like 7:30, and then there's another one at 8:15. So that's actually not enough time. You've only got 3 gaps here. But what I wanted to say about that is that I don't think it matters if you if you make sure your last defender and your midfielder here is from the same game, from the first game week, from the first days, so Tuesday's games, because it doesn't because if he does well, if this defender does well, it's going to have to go in a pair for him to work anyway. So you're kind of doing those two in a pair anyway, and then if he does badly, you do it like that. Whereas if they both do well, then it's going to be in a set anyway. So I think, I could be wrong, but I think that's the way I'm thinking about it. So they have to be from the Tuesday, and then this one from the Wednesday, your other mid from the Wednesday, and then these all have to be from Thursday's game. These three have to be from Thursday's game. I'll show you on the screen in a minute how I've set my team up. And then there was one other thing I was going to say as well, which I should have said, and it's going to get complicated now. But yeah, something I'm going to talk about it because I'm into it. So 3, 4, mid 5, something like that. How did I have this set up? 4, something like that. Something like that. That's not quite right, is it? It's like that. So this is the normal, how I started it off. 4, 4, 2, got your bench, goalies, all that business. And what I was going to say was that, so you got your defender does well, you do that thing. If he does well, they both go on. If they don't, he does well. If your defender does badly, I think, let me just try and remember what it was. If your defender does badly, you got these two to play with. If he does well, the logic from this launch poo guy was that you get rid of this guy and get rid of that one, and then that's going to force him on, and then you get this one other roll of the dice there with that, and you've got like a pair there. But my thinking is that if he does well, you may as well roll this dice as well at the same time for that pair. And if that doesn't work out, then you've got another pair here, because if you don't do that, if he plays well, I know it's a bit complicated, but if he plays well and you get rid of him to force this guy on, you're basically doing exactly the same thing you're doing here, of like having a pair, 2 rolls of the dice as a set. If you do that, you're forcing him on, and then they're going to play as a set, and that's it. So he does well, you play as a set, end of the game. Whereas here, if you play him, now you can play this as the set, see if he does well, and if he does badly, you get another chance at these 2 players here. So you may as well, you've got another roll of the dice there. So I think in that scenario, if he does well, you actually play that one as well, and see if they can go both go on as a set. And if not, then you play these 2, something like that. I mean, it depends. If he gets like 20 points or something, then you're probably just you're gonna want to keep him. I think it's something like that. If he does well, and then he does well as well, do you want to risk it then? Again, we'll get the intuition as we go. I think you might want to get rid of him then, just so you can keep that, because that's two good rolls of the dice. Anyway, that's my thinking on it all. Yeah, goalie's out of the question. The 7 are core, and then it's just these 3. And I'll leave a link to the Reddit article, because that's interesting to think about, get your head around. Yeah, I don't think it's massively complicated once we get into the intuition of it all, but I find it interesting. Anyway, I'm gonna move the camera back. 1 sec. Okay, I hope that made sense. So if you look at this team as an example, this is the team I've got at the moment. Oh, I forgot to talk about captains as well. I'll try and talk about it now. If you look at this team then, so I've got like the Raya plays first on the Wednesday, Kelleher second. Arsenal and Liverpool are the best chances of clean sheets probably, so I'm going with them. Then you've got my core team, which is like going to be a 2, this core here is the 2-2-3, 2 defenders, Arsenal playing earlier than the Liverpool ones. You got the 3 Palmer, Salah, and then the 3 up front, which I've gone Isaac, Muniz and Jackson, or maybe Darwin or something like that. I've gone without Haaland because he costs some money and we've got a limit on the budget, and so But I'd rather have Haaland in there. But anyway, that's kind of the core. And then these are the three that are playing on the last day that would bench on for these three. I'll get rid of them if these three do well. And then I've got the defender who plays on day one, gone for Aït-Nouri, and I've gone for a midfielder who also plays on that day one, because I think that's okay. So they can play at the same time. And then, because if he does badly, I can just let this one play. Because if he does well, I'm going to have to get rid of both of them in order to get him on the pitch. So I need both of them to do well. So if he does well, then I get rid of both of them too. He comes on. If he does badly and he does well, those two will automatically come on for these two. And if they all do badly, I just leave these players on. It's that kind of thing. I'm hoping it will be becoming more intuitive as we go along. So I think that's about it. And the vice captaincy thing. So with the forwards, you want the captaincy on the forwards this game week because forwards scored double. So you just stick the vice on whoever's playing first. Get somebody in day one who's playing first. I've got two who's playing on the day one. If they do well, then the captaincy will go to one of these players who are probably going to end up. You've got 4 chances that one of these players is probably going to end up becoming a red flag player. And if that captain ends up on a red flag player, it will automatically go to the vice cap, and the auto sub will come on for that player. So that's assuming that one of these, you're going to want somebody on your bench to come on. But if it so happens that all your bench are crap, and your vice captain does really well, you're then left with the choice of well, is it worth playing with 10 men? Just put your captain on a red flag player if that vice captain scored so well, or do you want to punt again and just put the captaincy on Salah or something on the final day and just hope? So you have 11 players, you have a player there and the captaincy on Salah. Would that outscore your vice captain score, or just playing with 10 men and just letting him go off and using your vice captain score doubled? Would that be better? Actually, it wouldn't be Salah, would it? It would be Jackson or something. So yeah, that's what you do with the captaincy, and that's the same kind of logic. Even in other game weeks when you're not captain the forwards, you just put the vice captain on somebody who's playing first, and then the captaincy goes on somebody you're going to convert to a red flag. And if your bench is crap and there's nobody going to a red flag, you have that same decision. So yeah, I'm sure lots of people are thinking I'm massively overthinking it, but I love getting my head stuck into things like this, all the strategy elements and maximising the odds of things. I find it interesting. So yep. So that's my team setup. I don't think it'll be exactly like this at the moment, but something like that. Yeah. What else did I want to say? I think that's about it. No, I won't say that. Yeah, okay, I'll leave the video there. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.